From the very moment Serena stepped into the weapons shop, she was judged not by her skill, but by their gaze and prejudice. "Did you take a wrong turn from a yoga class?" A scoff echoed from behind the counter, followed by skeptical stares. Her wrinkled windbreaker, the faded canvas backpack, and her gentle gait made her look more like someone in search of a cozy cafe than a firearm. One of the clerks lifted a shotgun voice thick with mockery. "Does the princess even know how to pull a trigger?" Serena said nothing. She simply stepped forward, eyes locked on the wall-mounted rifles, and spoke clear calm and without hesitation, Vector Zenith. "Ghost sight configuration, Cobalt Mark V rounds." The room went silent. Not from fear, but from disbelief. The name she uttered hadn't appeared in military catalogs for nearly a decade. Have you ever had a moment like that? A room you walked into only to feel every gaze try to push you aside because you didn't match what they expected. If that's ever happened to you, take a second. Like this video, so we know you're here, that you're not alone. Comment the place where you once felt like you didn't belong. We're here to share stories that are real about pain turning points and the journey back with dignity. Let's begin with Serena and what really happened that day. That weapons shop didn't just display guns, it showcased arrogance, bias, and that air of superiority sharpened over decades. Serena took a few more steps. Her old sneakers squeaked slightly on the tiled floor, just enough to draw the attention of a woman at the front desk adjusting her wavy blonde hair. Her name tag shimmered Cheryl. She leaned forward, smile sweet enough to sting. "Sweetheart, maybe you were headed to the bakery next door. We sell actual weapons here, not butter knives." A few nearby men chuckled. One chewed on a half-burnt cigar, his faded military jacket straining over a bloated stomach. He grunted. "She probably thinks this place repairs cameras or something. Looks like she photographs birds and posts on Instagram." Serena tightened her backpack strap slightly. No bowing, no flinching, just a calm gaze scanning the guns as if she didn't exist in their world, they were the ones lost in hers. Then a voice from the back counter chimed in, a bulky man in tactical pants, his guts spilling over his belt. "Think this is Comic-Con, do ya? We don't sell cosplay props here, little girl." Laughter erupted again, colder this time, like the room itself was testing her, waiting to see if she would crack or run. Serena didn't move. Her voice was as soft as ordering coffee. "I'm here to select a weapon." Just one sentence. But the energy shifted like someone yanked the brakes in the middle of a downhill rush. Because not everyone knows. Silence can be the most precise weapon of all. Serena's words still hung in the air. No sharpness, no tremble. Just a quiet assertion, one that snuffed out laughter like ash in cold wind. Of course they didn't stop. A young man, his hands stained with gun oil, snickered and walked up to the counter. Freckles dusted his face, and his eyes gleamed with the kind of arrogance found in people who've barely lived. "Those shoes probably haven't touched anything rougher than a sidewalk," he sneered. "Might have come from some donation box, huh?" Dry, empty laughter crackled around the room, laughter without grace, without shame. A tall woman in hunting gear, her frame sharp and eyes like frozen steel, chimed in, playing poor to look edgy. "Step out, sweetheart, before you become a walking human rights joke." Still Serena stood. Her grip on the strap of her backpack tightened just enough to make the fabric whisper, then loosened. She inhaled. Her shoulders rose not in defense, but as if claiming control of the air around her. The trainee didn't back down. He leaned closer, breath sour with cold coffee. "What's in the bag? Leftover food. We don't serve the homeless here." More laughter. But this time Serena lifted her chin slightly, eyes landing on the farthest glass case. She spoke softly, like repeating a code only understood by those who truly knew what it meant. "Show me your precision range rifles." No one replied. The trainee froze. His hand clenched around a greasy rag like he'd just touched a truth he wasn't ready for. The air shifted. Not because someone yelled, but because someone didn't have to. Some things don't need to be said to silence a room. Serena didn't learn that from school or the military. She learned it at her family dinner table. The mansion on the hill, wrought iron gates, guards switching shifts like clockwork, and a dining hall so long you had to ring a silver bell for service. Every evening after the meal, when the cutlery still smelled faintly of mushroom wine sauce and the napkins lay unfolded, her father would sit across from her, pour a glass of brandy, and say, "Serena power isn't in the shout. It's in the silence that follows when no one else can breathe." As the only daughter in the Rivers family, founders of a logistical empire spanning both coasts, Serena wasn't spoiled. She didn't grow up in ballrooms. She grew up with gunpowder, full-grain leather, and the wind whistling through pine at the family's private training range. At 8, she was shooting lead pellets, not to defend herself, but to learn discipline, restraint, and surgical precision. Once during a family hunt, a cousin sneered at her gray shirt and worn boots. "You look like the breakfast server. What are you doing out here?" Serena didn't reply. She picked up the rifle. Aimed. "One shot, dead center." He shut up. Everyone turned away, except her father. He nodded. From then on, Serena understood the greatest lesson. The loud ones are rarely dangerous, but silence, if unwavering, can bury an entire room. When Naomi first mentioned precision range rifles, no one felt fear. But when she continued Vector Zenith, Ghost Sight, Cobalt Mark V rounds, the air in the shop seemed to drop several degrees. A man emerged from behind the staff-only door, mid-50s salt and pepper hair, clipboard in hand, and the hollow gaze of someone who had seen too much but never let it show. The manager. He raised an eyebrow, looking for a self-defense pistol. Something small, easy to handle. Naomi shook her head. Her brown hair fell softly across her shoulder, her voice unwavering. I said, "Zenith. Ghost configuration. Cobalt rounds." The sound of movement behind the display cases stopped. Cheryl, the receptionist, known for her forced smiles, froze mid-click with her pen. The trainee dropped the rag in his hand. The old soldier, chewing a cigar, let it slip from his mouth onto the floor. From the back of the room, a young hunter with a backward cap muttered, "Zenith got pulled from the market 6 years ago." After that incident. A chill ran through the room. The manager tilted his head, his measured gaze shifting to something more guarded. "You know too much to be just a walk-in." Naomi looked him straight in the eye. "No boasting, no avoidance. I've used it. On the northern ice route, during a blizzard." Her words weren't loud, but they fell like stones into a still lake, sending ripples no one could ignore. A few people narrowed their eyes, scanning Naomi for signs of deception, but there was nothing. No panic, no challenge, just a composure that couldn't be faked, a throat cleared, rough, gravelly, heavy with irritation. From the crowd emerged a man with heavy footsteps. Former officer Riker Broadshoulders' thick neck, with a security badge still clipped to his belt like a forgotten honor. His scoffed voice drenched in sarcasm. "A blizzard on the northern ice route. You tell that fairy tale to kids at summer camp." Naomi didn't respond. She just looked at him, unblinking, as if waiting for him to hear the hollowness in his own words.
"Look at you,"
he sneered, scanning her. Wrinkled windbreaker, worn shoes. No weapon, no team, no proof. And you're talking special ops. You wouldn't last 5 minutes in the cold. A younger man nearby nodded along, face red like he was trying to earn stripes from the crowd. No gear, no signs of training. Just trying to impress. "That's all right, Riker," jabbed a finger toward Naomi's backpack, voice heavy with doubt.
"So where's the proof?"
"You got pictures of the snow, or a snow globe?" Maybe dry laughter spread an attempt to salvage their crumbling confidence. Naomi didn't move. She reached briefly for a display clipboard, then stopped halfway. Changed her mind, folded her arms across her chest, exhaled slow and steady. But Riker didn't stop. "You're just here to browse. Don't act like one of us." This time Naomi replied. Her voice wasn't loud, but each word sliced like a razor. "That configuration handles recoil best at 20 degrees Celsius. What about you? Ever tested that?" The room quieted. Their sarcasm cracked. For the first time, a few of them stopped laughing. They had called her fake, a dreamer, not the type. They thought a woman in a wrinkled jacket couldn't possibly understand recoil scopes or triple sight configurations. What they didn't know was that Naomi Rivers never needed to raise her voice to be heard. She only had to do one thing. The room now swirled with tension, a collapse of ego and doubt waiting to happen. A large tattooed man stepped out from the display section, his neck inked with faded military marks. He chuckled, half amused, half taunting. "All right, tough talk, girl. Let's say you've heard of this stuff. Now try lifting this." He pulled down a heavy sniper rifle, Orion 9, nearly 9 kgs, known to throw off new recruits with one wrong stance. "Just holding it's hard enough. Don't even think about shooting." He dropped the weapon onto the counter like a challenge. More laughter. A pudgy man chimed in. With wrists that thin, she'd break, just turning the scope. Naomi said nothing. She stepped forward lightly, placed her hand on the rifle, no rush, no flourish. Then she lifted it with one hand. Flawless posture. No strain. No gasp. No tremble. She brought her eye to the scope, checked all 3 alignment points. Her other hand spun the suppressor cap fluid, practiced like she'd done it hundreds of times in snow and wind under pressure. The tattooed man's jaw dropped. A collector mumbled, "Must have gotten lucky. Let's see how she flips the safety." Naomi placed the rifle back down so gently it made no sound. She spoke calm as if adjusting a radio dial. "I adjust for wind drift. Triple sight doesn't need muscle. It needs instinct." Silence. This time no one laughed. Only eyes fixed on her, as if for the first time they weren't looking at a woman. They were looking at a variable they couldn't control. The doubt wasn't gone yet, but it had changed color. From mockery to unease, from arrogance to fearful curiosity. An older man in a protective vest limped out from a side room. The store owner, a retired vet who used to run a private firing school and the only one authorized to unlock the military-grade testing range in the back. He didn't ask. He just looked at Naomi cautiously, then turned to his staff and said curtly, "Open the glass. Set target at 100 meters. A dial clicked. The thick steel door opened. Behind it, a narrow corridor led to a sealed testing chamber lined with 4 layers of bulletproof military-grade glass. "One shot only," the owner said, voice hard. "Hit the red circle or leave." Naomi nodded. She stepped in, no guidance needed. her hand steady, no hesitation. She picked up the Orion 9 again, like selecting a familiar instrument, adjusted the bipod, took aim. 1 second. 2 seconds. Her breathing was calm. Her eyes didn't blink. Her trigger finger touched lightly like recalling a memory. Pang! A sharp, clean report echoed inside the glass chamber. The entire shop held its breath. Seconds later, the monitor flashed the result straight through 4 layers of glass. Dead center of the bullseye. Not a millimeter off. No one spoke. A grizzled mercenary in the corner who'd been silent the whole time whispered, "She's not looking with her eyes. She's firing from instinct." The manager stared at Naomi, murmuring, "Only one person ever pulled that off before, and she vanished years ago." Naomi didn't confirm. She didn't deny it. She just stood up, brushed the dust off her gloves, then looked down at the rifle like greeting an old friend from a blizzard long ago, and the room still as stone. For the first time that entire afternoon, no one could stand above her. No one moved after the shot. The room felt as if all the air had been sucked out. No applause, no praise, only the silence of acceptance, and a fear quietly forming. Naomi stepped back, placed the gun on the counter with both precision and grace. As she withdrew her hand, a faint ink mark appeared on her sleeve, a silver-gray tattoo so small that only those who had lived within secret circles would recognize it. SPC-7. Ghost Division. A young mercenary backed away, bumping into the glass cabinet behind him. His voice trembled slightly. That can't be real. Ghost Division was wiped from the records in 2018. Cheryl, the receptionist, whose voice had been as sharp as a razor, dropped her pen on the floor. She didn't pick it up. Former Officer Riker took a step back. His confident frown from earlier dissolved. He muttered, almost speaking to himself. No one outside the inner circle knows about Ghost Site. Unless she was in it. An older man in a worn-out suit added in a whisper, "I once heard rumors about a female operative, no name, no file, who eliminated an entire target group in under 4 minutes, but it was just a rumor." Naomi didn't confirm. She simply reached into her backpack, pulled out a bullet and alloy round used exclusively by ghost teams, and placed it on the counter. As the bullet rotated, light reflected off its surface, revealing a faint code, Ghost SC-17. Suddenly, a sports marksman with a medal, the same man who'd boasted and mocked her, let out a nervous laugh. Engraved fake. She fooled them, but not me. I've won nationals. I can spot a replica. Naomi didn't argue. She simply sat down and did nothing. And it was that very calm that made him stumble. A staffer nearby instinctively pulled out his phone and scanned the barcode from the bullet. His screen instantly went black. Red text appeared. Access denied. Classified level 7. Once again, the crowded room suddenly felt small. Not because Naomi had grown larger, but because they had judged her too small. All eyes remained fixed on the bullet on the counter, that silent piece of metal, now telling a story no words could disguise. The marksman whispered more to comfort himself. Probably a souvenir. A replica. Right? No one replied. The glass storefront suddenly vibrated. The sound of rotor blades grew louder. Closer. A light helicopter descended just outside the parking lot. Dust whipped up the glass, trembling as if it too feared what was coming. The store door burst open. A man in a black suit stepped in. Tall, square-shouldered, his face calm like each step was pre-programmed to never falter. He didn't say a word. He walked straight to Naomi and laid a sealed white envelope embossed with the national crest on the counter. Naomi accepted it, no questions asked. His hand lingered on the envelope a beat longer, like a silent message that needed no voice. Cheryl took a step back. Riker clenched his jaw. The store owner swallowed hard. On the envelope read, "Urgent recall, Mission Class C." Below that, the president's signature. The man turned and left. Sunlight streamed in, glinting off a simple silver ring on his left hand, identical to the one Naomi wore beneath her sleeve since the beginning. They didn't hug, didn't speak names, but those with eyes knew they were one. Not by blood, but by surviving missions the rest of the world would never know. The store owner, the one who'd insisted on just one shot, bowed his head for the first time that afternoon. "I asked who you were. Now I understand." Naomi nodded slightly. She didn't say thank you. Didn't say goodbye. She simply gripped the envelope turned toward the door and said just loud enough for those who wished to hear, "I only came to buy a few old bullets. But it seems peace still isn't mine." Naomi had just placed her hand on the door handle when a voice called out from a shadowed corner,
"Wait!"
A man with glasses slipping halfway down his nose stepped out from the tech counter holding a scanning device. He had the look of a self-proclaimed expert, the kind who used technology to belittle others, masking his own inner loneliness. "I've caught fake letters, counterfeit seals, even replicated encryption from the deep web," he said, lifting the scanner. "You can't fool me with a fancy stamp or embossed envelope. The system will expose you." Naomi said nothing. She set the envelope calmly on the counter, a silent challenge. He waved the scanner over it, confident, borderline smug. "This is a fake Class Z. Standard encryption. I've cracked hundreds like it." The scanner beeped rapidly. Then the screen changed, but not the way he expected. Instead, a warning flashed. "Quantum seal active. Protocol Oval Office direct. Access unauthorized. Device lockdown initiated." The scanner shut off in his hands with a sharp hiss like a dying breath. One of the interns behind him, still holding a coffee cup stained with drips, whispered, "What is Oval Office protocol?" Naomi folded the envelope, calm as someone who'd long grown used to being doubted and was far too dangerous to require validation. "The tech specialist wasn't done. I can try another encryption layer. Maybe..." But one of the surveillance monitors behind him suddenly blared red, flashing an alert. "Anomaly detected. Classified layer breach. Trace initiated." He panicked, scrambling to shut off the device, but nothing worked. The entire store's scanning system shut down. Naomi said only one thing. The truth doesn't need protection if it's big enough. And this time, no one disagreed. Naomi walked out. She didn't look back. Didn't smirk in triumph. Didn't leave behind a warning or satisfaction. Only the sound of helicopter blades still spinning dirt swirling behind her like the remnants of a storm, with her at its center. Inside the store, the air was as thick as a room left sealed for years. Cheryl, the receptionist, with a smile dripping in classism, was internally investigated just 2 days later. The store, funded by a defense contractor chain, could not retain an employee publicly identified for mocking a customer with a classified background. Cheryl wasn't fired. She was silently erased from the system. No one called her back. Riker, the ex-officer proud of reading people in 5 seconds, was anonymously reported for using a fake police badge to overstep in weapons checks. When inspected authorities found a printed article about Naomi tucked inside his drawer, the tech expert who tried to debunk the fake envelope had his access suspended after a quantum-level breach was detected in his device, unauthorized recording of Oval Office class encryption. The scanner he boasted about cracking hundreds of codes was now locked in sealed storage. For the first time in his life, he couldn't access a single system. As for the store owner, he didn't lose his job. But a few days later, he resigned voluntarily. No one asked why, but ever since Naomi walked out, he could no longer look directly at any woman in a windbreaker carrying a canvas backpack. Naomi didn't know all of this. She didn't need to. On the helicopter, she simply sat still, leaning back, her hand resting on the still-sealed envelope. She knew what was inside, not because someone told her, but because her entire life had followed a destiny that never spoke, only left signs. Below was the world shrinking beneath quiet eyes. The taunts, the sneers, the head shakes, all left below the rotors beating against the sky. She closed her eyes, not to rest, but to listen to herself. Because sometimes silence is not retreat. It is the only way dignity can speak loudest. Have you ever stood in a room where everyone believed you didn't belong just because of how you looked, your gender, your background? And yet you didn't need to shout, you only had to stand tall. Naomi is all of us in those moments of being misunderstood. And if you've ever been Naomi, leave a comment. Let us know you've walked through fire and never needed anyone's approval to know who you are. Thank you for staying through this journey. Follow the channel as we continue to share stories of dignity, justice, and the most haunting silence of all the truth.